Do you think your boss is a good leader? What about you? Do you have what it takes to be a good leader? Join us today as we discuss 5 myths of leadership that just might be holding you back from surging forward. Hello, and welcome to the Surging Forward broadcast, where we're helping you to have a positive view in a negative world. My name is David Valentine, and I'm here to help you see the value in the job you do and how you can keep surging forward. Well, hello again, and welcome to the Surging Forward podcast, where we're trying to create a positive view in a negative world. And we just do that by one person at a time. And you know what the great thing about that is? Is that it also helps me to keep surging forward, because I get a lot of advice from a lot of people too. So it kind of comes around full circle. And that's what kind of makes it really cool with all the great, wonderful people I'm meeting out there and interacting with. So, again, if this is your first time listening, this is a show that we put out once a week to just give you that little bit of a positive message to help you to keep surging forward in your week. You know, we all get down. We got people that constantly come against us. We get the negative vibes. Okay, great. All you got to do is turn on the TV for about 5 seconds, and it'll make you so mad you just want to go out and go after somebody. It just, you're mad at somebody because something on there is going to make you angry. So I actually try to stay away from a lot of news and TV nowadays, and just kind of grab it and read it now and then. But I spend a lot of my time trying to influence others, as well as read a lot of books and keep myself influenced also, so that we can all try to make a difference and change some of the things that are going on in this world that just create a lot of negativity. So again, if you're new, that's what we do. We try to help tradesmen a lot so that they can continue to surge forward in their careers, and basically anyone in the workforce that's working. So just to give you a little bit of update also, I've been working rigorously trying to get the new course out. I tackled a very hard course off the bat and wanted to kind of dive in and create a course because people get all nervous about taking their test and trying to get their journeyman's license, different things like that. So calculations just seems to scare a lot of people. So we're working on that basics for branch circuits, and we're getting real close to going to production. I was hoping to go to production last week, but again, these weeks go by crazy. I'm still trying to a lot of times follow my own advice about making a priority of things. But with the first of the year and tax time and all the different things come into play, well, you know how that is. Time just gets away. But it's been a good week. Things are going great. A lot of exciting things going on. I've met a lot of great people. For those of you that are on LinkedIn, thanks for some of the recent contacts that I've had on LinkedIn lately. And we're also have a heavy presence on Facebook. So, if you go on Facebook or you happen to have a Facebook page, take a look at the Surging Forward page. We do a lot of announcements there and a lot of updates there. And again, it's just reaching a lot of people. So I want to thank you for that and helping us to keep surging forward. I never in my wildest dreams, about 2 or 3 years ago, thought that it was going to go this far. And we're still on a momentum. I'm not sure where it's going to be by the end of this year. But it's with everybody's help and a lot of the encouragement that I'm getting. So, again, just trying to manage my time in the proper way to make sure that I can help make a difference in your world. So, again, thanks a lot for all the input and for all the likes and for sharing. Share this podcast. Those of you that are sharing this podcast, the podcast itself has grown. I think we're up to, each time we do the downloads, the last time I looked, we were up over about 700 downloads a week. So that's quite a bit for just getting out there. So again, we don't do a whole lot of advertising with things. It's mostly been word of mouth. So thank you very much. I'm glad it's making a difference. And again, just keep the emails coming in. A lot of the coaching that I'm doing with some of you out there, uh, we just take it one day at a time. So I just try to open myself up to try to help others to be able to have the success that I've had by just taking it one day at a time. That's really what it's about. So today, I'm going to be talking about some of the myths that we hear about leadership. And explicitly, there's 5 myths I want to kind of dispel about what people think about leadership. A lot of people think that, okay, I can't be a good leader, or I'm not really cut out, or I'm shy, or whatever the case may be. It's kind of amazing. I tend to try to be a decent leader, and I get a lot of good feedback from those that I teach in class and different things like that. But actually, I'm sort of shy in a couple ways too. And even though I know my wife would disagree, a lot of times I don't like to get out and deal with conflict, but yet I learned to have to deal with it because a lot of my job does involve conflict, and as an inspector and different things like that. So I have to learn how to diffuse some of those situations. So let's talk about some of those. The 5 myths of leadership. Now, the first one I want to talk about is leaders are born, not made. That's one of the most discouraging things that someone could say to you. Usually the person that says that is, he's telling somebody that, you're not as good as me because you'll never have it as great as I am. So you can never come up to my level because I'm such a great leader and I was born this way. You just don't have what it takes. Oh, my friends, that could be further from the truth. You think, in order to be a leader, you have to have a lot of money or you have to go to the right schools. You see, that's all, a total myth. Because here's a classic example that I wanted to look at here. All right. There's plenty of people who have made it and they didn't have money. They didn't go to the right schools. You see, the first one I want to take a look at Abraham Lincoln. His father worked all kind of odd jobs and he leased out some of his farmland. And, Abraham Lincoln didn't go to school. He was largely self-taught. And he went on to become a lawyer. He was, his life just wasn't easy. He lost like 3 or 4 elections. People laughed at him and thought he was a laughing stock. All right. But he continued to persevere. And he went on to become the 16th president of the United States and dealt with one of the biggest conflicts the United States has ever seen. And he was able to persevere through that. What a great leader. Now, how about Dr. Martin Luther King? Here's another one. He grew up during a very sad time with segregation, but he didn't allow all of those things going around to stop him. He went on to become one of the most visible spokesmen and leaders of the civil rights movement. He didn't have a lot of money, and he didn't go to all the right schools again. And he wasn't just born to be that. He worked at what he got. And he worked at becoming a very influential spokesman for the civil rights movement. You see, the truth is, very few leaders are, quote, born leaders. Most people learn leadership by trying and failing, but refusing to give up. They have a belief system where they believe that they can make a difference. And they're constantly reevaluating why they failed, and then they make their minds to do things differently the next time. So, next time you think you have to be born to be a leader, we're all born with the opportunity to do great things. So just remember that, my friends. Let's look at what I like to call myth number 2. Leadership is a rare skill. Wow, that's a heavy one there. That's another put down that somebody would say to you, to say only certain people can acquire the rare leadership skill. You see, this one's very simple because there's nothing that can be further from the truth. If you watch a group of children playing, you'll quickly see that one of them starts stepping forward and telling the others what to do. When the children get bored with the game, another child will start guiding the group. And then even another child will see what he's doing, and then they'll start learning to do the same thing. You see, if there's only 2 children playing, a lot of time you'll see one throwing out the ideas of like, let's do this, or let's try this. Again, leadership is learned through trial and error. Because if you see kids out there in the field, you constantly see one child will say, hey, I want to do it this way. And they start learning those skills of how to be a leader. Now, there's all kinds of different ways that children learn. There's all kinds of different ways that we learn. Some are more outgoing, and some are more introverted. We're going to be talking about that also. And there's pros and cons to each. Because when you're too outgoing, you may be missing the small stuff. And when you're introverted, you may be picking up the small details that the outgoing person doesn't pick up. So it's not a rare skill. It's a skill that's learned throughout our life. And our circumstances determine how we perceive. We all learn in just different ways. So let's look at number 3. Myth number 3, leaders are gifted and outgoing. This is also untrue because many leaders are introverts. They're not the, outgoing, wonderful, great guys that you think they got to be all charismatic and everything else. So, that's what we think of the leader, the guy that can go out and just command presence and has all the charisma and people just follow them and flock to them all over the place. And it's interesting. A lot of your great leaders are actually introverts. You see, they have a knack for abstract thinking, as introverts only like to deal with what they know, and they tend to focus on the long term. They don't really get real concerned on what others think of them, and they tend to be more quiet and reserved. That's why many people tend to think of them as being withdrawn. But it also means that they're able to figure out how things work. And yet, they are still very influential. Some very great leaders out there are like Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg. We've all heard those names. Very great leaders. As a matter of fact, I was reading a story about Warren Buffett, and it's a very interesting deal. Interesting. He has a tendency, when he sits down to talk to somebody, to really focus on the small group of people he's talking to. And yet, the outgoing leader, when they're at a big convention, they tend to have to make that 5-second contact with everybody. They feel like they need to talk to everyone, to where they're going to everybody. But yet, Warren Buffett tends to focus on the small and the smaller group. And yet his advice is wanted by so many people all throughout the investment world. So he tends to focus on the small things, whereas the person that's all outgoing tends to miss the small details and tends to forget the whole picture as he's out making the big deal. So there's pros and cons with both. Just because you're outgoing doesn't mean that you're a better leader, and just because you're an introvert doesn't mean you're a better leader. It's different types of leader. You don't have to have any special gifting or be that big outgoing guy. So that's a big one. Myth number 4. Leaders lead by brute force. Now, this is one of those can be totally furthest from the truth. And most of the leaders that lead by this type of brute force are the ones telling us, and you're the type of leader in 1, 2, and 3. I'm a special person, and this is the way it is. This is basically the definition of a bad leader. They're nothing more than a bully. You see, a good leader encourages and counsels. They earn respect of those they lead around them. A good leader is willing to share their knowledge because they have enough confidence level to say, hey, I have no problem with you excelling to even better than I do. You see, that's the sign of a good leader, because I'm helping you to excel. Because I know in the long run that it's going to come back to me. It's a matter of giving. It's a type of a servant leadership. And that's a lot of what I portray, because it's not about what you can get from others. It's about what you can share with others. And you learn to lead by example. When a job needs to get done, what's really cool about these leaders, they're willing to jump in and get their hands dirty. They're not just pointing the fingers and ordering people around what to do. When the time gets tough, they're ready to get in there and do it. Good leaders challenge people to transform their own lives. And so, people look to them and say, wow, that's who I want to be like. Because they're well liked around those below them. Leading by brute force and leading by fear, that's a simple dictator, and that's all that is. Nobody can force you to do what you want to do and enjoy it. So think about that. Leading by brute force is not a proper way to create a team. Because as soon as you're not around, if that's what you think how you're supposed to lead, as soon as you're gone, they have no desire to make you look good. But when you have a servant leadership, people will bend over backwards to make you look good. Yeah, I know we have those that are always going to try to take advantage. But there's ways to deal with them also, to where it's not going to affect your leadership career. Okay. Now, finally, I want to talk about myth number 5. Leadership myth number 5. Leaders are only found at the top of a company. Again, this is so far from the truth, because we all have the ability to be leaders. You see, we're leaders in our homes. We're leaders in our churches. We're leaders in our families. You're leaders at work. You're leaders around the neighborhood. And the thing is, as a leader, sometimes you are serving and somebody is leading you. Being a leader doesn't mean that you're always the boss all the way around. When I talk to those in my apprenticeship class, I say, one day I may be working for you. And I will have to respect your authority, and I will help you look good. That is my job for when I'm working for you. If you're a parent, you're a leader. You're leading your child. So many times today, it seems like, and I'm not talking about all parents out there, but I know my daughter teaches school, and it's like people rely on the schools to teach the children and to bring out all the good stuff in them. No, it's the parent's job to lead the child. Take that very seriously, because you're making a difference in your child's life. Sometimes we don't even realize that people are watching you, and they start following your example. We act like, we live in a world now where there's cameras and people are watching everything we do. It's amazing, some of the videos I see on YouTube, that people don't think they're being watched. But people are watching you. So they may see, wow, and they're emulating what you're doing. So are you portraying a positive or a negative aspect? Sometimes we lead and we make mistakes. So this is a learning process. It's very simple. We just need to admit our mistakes and try again. There's no magic formula where all of a sudden you're born to be a leader and you're never going to make a mistake. Again, that goes back to myth number 1. So they're not just at the top of the company. Little by little, it gets easier. And we all need to realize that at times we need to turn to others for advice and counsel. That's a big one for me. I used to, and I'm getting over it right now, I used to have a very big trust issue because I've been burned by a lot of people. And as well, I'm sure each one of you guys have. You've been burned by people and you don't have that trust issue. Who do you get advice from? Who do you get counsel from? Well, it was a big struggle for me, and I'm just now getting over that after a few years. So leadership's not about power. It's about servanthood. And again, I'm not preaching about anything out here, but look at the leadership example. I mean, if you've never read the Bible or anything like that, if you're just hearing what people say about the Bible, again, you're going over a third world, a third opinion on something. Take a chance. Read the Bible a little bit, and you'll see some of the servant leadership of even what Christ did in the Bible. A very humble leader, yet whether you believe or you don't believe, he had an effect throughout all of history. So again, this was a person who led, but yet was very humble. All right? And so, again, I just want to leave you with that little thought. And so there's all kind of ways to become a good leader. And it boils down to what I always say before. It's a choice. It's a choice that you make of how you want to make a difference in your life. I can't make a choice for you. Neither can anybody else make a choice for you. I may be able to influence you a little bit. I may be able to nudge you here and there. But you've got to make the choice. Leadership is about encouraging others to surge higher than they ever thought possible. So what type of leader are you? Do you have any of these myths? Are these things that you used to believe? Well, hopefully I've dispelled a couple of them there and hopefully pointed you in the right direction. So, my friends, until next week, stay safe and keep surging forward. Thanks for your time. God bless, and we shall be talking soon. Look forward to your emails and keep them coming, and have a great week.